Welcome back. For more details, we're joined by Dr. Monica Williams. She is a professor of, she has a PhD in international relations. Good morning, Dr. William.
Good morning.
How are you
Thank you
doing?
for having me today.
A great day to you. So first it was Dr. Ghada Wali, then Dr. Yasmin Fuad, then now it's Dr. Rania Al-Mashat as an executive secretary for the UN Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia, ESCAWA. So how do you assess the very prosperous and important role of women worldwide, and especially in an international community like the United Nations?
Of course, Egypt's engagement within the United Nations increasingly reflects a strategic shift from traditional diplomacy towards more proactive influence driven by multilateral collaboration. And in this context, as you mentioned exactly, the appointment of Dr. Rania Al-Mashat become one of the most important role, represent consideration of Egypt's growing credibility as contribute to global governance, particularly in the demand of or field domain of development, finance, and international collaboration. First of all, let's assume that structural level, this development underscores the evaluation of the Egyptian foreign policy doctrine, which seeks to balance the relation between countries and, of course, within the United States. Egypt's increasing presence within UN framework reflects its capability to navigate a complex international agenda ranging from sustainable development to climate finance, while advocate for the priority of the global south. So the appointment signal raising level of international trust in Egyptian experts, Egyptian technocratic expertise, and Egypt policymakers, of course, demonstrate a pragmatic approach to economic reform, development, finance, and multilateral engagement. And if we try to tackle with the Egypt expanded footprint within the UN system, which enhance its soft power by projecting an immense competence, stability, and constructive engagement, of course, which of course strengthens Cairo and Egypt, of course, ability to forge coalition with other developing nations.
So exactly how significant is it for an Egyptian and Egyptian women also official to lead ESCAWA in this juncture, given regional, economic, and geopolitical challenges that are undergoing?
Of course, it's very important for women in Egyptian women to take or appointment as the executive secretary for this or the critical role. First of all, let's assume that Egyptian women play vital role in society and development, and especially Dr. Rania Al-Mashat has a lot of cumulative knowledge in this rigor. So it supports Egypt and Egyptian women ambition to act as a bridge between South and global South and international institutions. Egyptian representatives can articulate the challenges facing developing nations such as debt burdens, climate vulnerability, and development gaps, while working within global systems to address them. And of course, in the other side, it is institutional trust between Egypt as all and Egyptian women specifically and international organizations. Appointment of Egyptian experts and Egyptian women signal confidence in their expertise, particularly in areas such as economic reform and development, financing, and sustainability. So over time, this trust can translate into stronger partnership and increased access to funding and deeper cooperation.
A leader there, I mean, the Mashat's leadership would strengthen the ESCAWA's role amid overlapping crises, the conflict that distress, the climate vulnerability, and also one of the important issues like the food insecurity. How impressive and would leave that a print, Egyptian print, over that particular file?
Of course, there is a lot of Egyptian footprint, as we mentioned. The leadership of this or the role of this credibility has a long distance and a long understanding for the women. Egypt, as we say, increasing presence within UN framework reflects its capability to tackle this complex international agenda, especially the appointment sign for raising level of institutional trust in Egyptian technocrats. So it's very important. And on the other side, enhance Egypt's profile as a visible partner capable of contribute to policy formulation and the policy adaptation. In this regard, Dr. Rania Al-Mashat, specifically as we see, or particularly significant given her background in international financial institutions, her involvement in structured, creative and innovative financing mechanisms. So from a policy perspective, such representation provides Egypt with a strategic platform to align global development framework with national priorities, including these goals which outlined in Egypt Vision 2030. And of course, it enables Egypt to advocate for more inclusive financing models or sustainable frameworks and climate adaptation support, which tailor to emerging economies, which of course relevant to developing countries which face mounting physical pressure and climate-related vulnerability, especially of course this given in terms of what's happening in the region nowadays. So Egypt expanded, of course, footprint within the UN system, which enhanced Egypt's image and Egypt's soft power by projecting its stability and constructive, of course, and strength Egypt's coalition with other developing nations.
Leadership vision and institutional direction. What exact vision will Dr. Rania Al-Mashat likely to bring to ESCWA based on her ministerial and developmental finance record here in Egypt as a minister?
Of course, it's related to her role, its accumulative knowledge to what it's doing in her position on her terms while she was Ministry of Planning and Economic Development. So it's part of and related to what the ministerial position, which is of course Dr. Rania was a minister for around 5 years. So it's very important, and it's has a lot of expertise in this regard.
How could her background and macroeconomic reform and climate finance influence ESCWA's strategic priorities?
Of course, it's part of the Egypt priority and the role of Egypt in this role, food security and economic development. All of these issues are part of the Egyptian priorities and part of the Egyptian voice to accumulating the knowledge, the appointment on the geopolitical or the leadership, as you mentioned, a clear message. Egypt now, it's not a recipient of international support, but it's a shaper of global development discourse. You mentioned earlier that there is a lot of around 5 Egyptian expertise in UN agencies, Dr. Ghedawali, Dr. Rania Al-Mashat. So it's very important to reflect Egypt's mission to reposition itself within the hierarchy of international actors. It's a multilateral institution to expand its economic and diplomatic institution, and of course it's part of Egyptian plan to reposition, and it's part of the Egyptian priorities inside and outside.
To what extent do you think, Dr. Monica, the appointment of Dr. Rania Al-Mashat reflect broader trends towards elevating global South voices in the international institutions?
Of course, it's part of the institution, and it's part of the Dr. Rania Al-Mashat focused on strength regional cooperation, advancing sustainable development, and promoting financing solutions. So her approach emphasized bridge the gap between a global finance system and the need of developing countries. So it's very important while enhancing policy coordination among member states. It's of course have a good impact on the policies. And Egyptian plays a strategic role, and Dr. Rania Al-Mashat, through its engagement in international and of course her background, seeks to promote inclusive development and support the economic resilience of course in Egypt, and of course it will affect the global South as well, and advocate for fair access to financing as technology for developing countries.
At this note, I would like to thank you so much, Dr. Monica William, Professor of International Relations. Thank you so much, and you have a great day. We're going to go to a short break, and we'll come back to you, so stay with us.